There is a River, the story of Edgar Casey Thomas Sugrue, Internet Archive DLI, Tilinoini, TS Rivers 40 of El Util Carat Arcatico. There is a River, the story of Edgar Casey Thomas Sugrue, revised edition, New York, Henry Holt and Company 3 *, Isra. V carat Moy carat RYVT carat FJO UEVT carat UVM Zim 2. JP1. XL Li 6 OCL IOC IXL OX XQ carat S. SO Kandai Happy Smiley X9 TX carat XLOC OXLEXOX IC greater than 4. 2. T6 CL I carat XIX. V carat XX carat Illinois, JQ13 IJUJCLX Tix carat, ISJO Voy XL OI, asterisk 0 to 13 XS ILTEL XI? XI asked, poundixk, OATULXOI carat, T to the power of L-4 LR. Psi carat CTLXI? RITXT9. ISTCXXCX, I04 pound. Skvorkstelx X carat IN TXGF, carat X carat 12 CRLX, XC carat S. Egg carat LXXTXI asterisk IXXL, IX carat, AJ0, RSTECLX I carat XIXTXG, JIXXXOXY, carat or pound T. He story of Edgar Casey properly belongs in the History of Hypnosis as a chapter in evidence for the theories of Armand Marc Jacques de Chaste. Net, Marquis de Puysegur. It was de Puysegur, not Mesmer, who in 1784 discovered hypnotism. De Puységur's famous subject Victor went into a sleep instead of a convulsion, while being magnetized. And in that Walter Berg, in The Mind of Man, Carrot says, dull peasants became mentally alert, and could even foretell events or understand things ordinarily obscure to them. Somnambulists made medical diagnoses in other patients brought before them, and foretold the future. The magnetizer of the 1820s merely brought his patient before a competent somnambulist, and waited for the diagnosis, if only modem. The Mind of Man, Fay Walter Bromfag, Harper and Brothers, New York, 1937. Science had such aids. The clairvoyance of somnambulists became a fascinating game. But the fascinating game was not encouraged either by the French Academy or by the medical profession, and it suffered the fate of other fads. A generation later, Andrew Jackson Davis, the Poughkeepsie seer, was practicing medical diagnosis by clairvoyance in America. But he remained obscure and is not even mentioned in textbooks and histories of hypnotism. Hypnotism, in fact, DLL have nothing to do with clairvoyance. It has renounced its own mother. Edgar Casey practiced medical diagnosis by clairvoyance for 43 years. He left stenographic reports of 30,000 of these diagnoses to the Association for Research and Enlightenment Inc., along Whitley hundreds of complete case reports containing AFL stavits by CLI patients and reports by physicians. There are hundreds of people throughout the United States who will testify, at the drop of a hat, to CLI accuracy of his diagnoses and the efficacy of his suggestions for treatment. He did not use his ability except to prescribe for the sick. and to give spiritual advice and vocational guidance when these were specifically requested. He never made any public demonstrations of his powers, he was never on the stage, he never sought any publicity, he did not prophesy, he did not seek wealth. Often his economic status was quite precarious. At best it never rose above modest security. During the period of the Casey Hospital he was paid only $75 a week for his services. His unquestioned personal integrity, plus the excellent and voluminous records of his work and the long period that they covered, made him an ideal subject for scientific study. But scientists shamed him. He and his friends regretted this. It might have been more evidential if they had made this report. I first met Edgar Casey in 1927. At that time I made most of the preliminary notes and sketches for this book. Since then I have continually added to the material. Enjoying the complete cooperation of the members of the Casey family, and being accorded access to the files at all times. From June 1939 to October 1941, I was a guest in the house on Arctic Crescent, seeing and interviewing Mr. Casey every day, and examining material from the files. I spent many summers at Virginia Beach, particularly those of 1929, 1930, and 1931. In addition to the members of the Casey family, I have had the good fortune to know intimately most of the other characters in the story. One of the first and most important contributors to my dossier was Mr. Casey's father, the late Lesh B. Casey. Another was Carrie Salter House, who with her husband, the late Dr. House, and her son, Tommy, were invaluable aides and staunch friends through the years. I was not privileged to know Mr. Casey's mother. She died in 1926, but her children and her grandchildren have described her to me so often and so well that I feel her portrait, as I have drawn it, is an accurate one. I knew Mrs. Casey's mother, Mrs. Evans, and Gray Salter, like the Casey boys and Tommy House, has long been a friend. I have known two of Mr. Casey's sisters, Annie and Sarah, for many years. Other members of the Casey and Salter families I have met and talked with from time to time. All have aided me. And by comparing and paralleling Tybee reports they gave me of incidents and conversations, Whitley those of other participants, in many cases I have been able to arrive at that rounded, objective viewpoint of events which is the biographer's goal. On the other hand, I have gradually acquired a knowledge of and a fondness for all these people which is comparable to a novelist's feeling for the characters he has created. That is why the biography, in many parts, reads like a family chronicle. The Norfolk and Virginia Beach study groups of the Association for Research and Enlightenment have been of great help to me, as have been the Staff LF members of the association, particularly Miss Gladys Davis, Mr. Casey's secretary for 22 years. In Cly End, however, it was Hugh Lynn Casey who not only led the horse to water, but made him drink, and it was my wife who acted as typist, proofreader, editor, and nurse to my crotchets and dole drums. To them I am deeply grateful. If I have done a good job, it is because of them and despite myself. I last saw Edgar Cayce in August 1944, when he visited me in Florida. He was weary then, tired to the depths of his being. He talked eagerly of the future of the association. He spoke wistfully of the time when he might retire. He liked the warmth and brightness of Florida. He loved the Australian pines that grow near the water. Pick out a place for me here, he said, and I will come back and stay. He went home the next day. His last letter to me, W. Ireton in longhand. On the stationery of the Hotel Patrick Henry Inn, Roanoke, was dated September 11, 1944. It said, in part, "My hands won't let me use the machine. I doubt whether you can read Claes, but I hope you can make some of it out. I am not doing too well, sort of a stroke I guess. They have come in a kind of series. I hope to get back to work for a while yet, and I want to hold out until the boys get home. I can't much more than put on and take off my clothes. I can't tie my shoelaces or knot my tie. But I am hoping to be better soon. There is so much to be done and so many who need." Thomas Sugrue, May 11, 1945. Clearwater Beach, FLA. UNCLE. Billy Evans huddled in the rear seat of his cab and watched the afternoon train pull into the Louisville and Nashville Railroad station in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. It was a cold, still afternoon in January 1912. A stranger stepped off the Pullman. Uncle Billy left his warm seat and went to meet him. He was a large, tall man, wrapped in a heavy overcoat, with its collar turned up to protect his ears. He let Uncle Billy take his 2 suitcases and followed him to the cab. "I am looking for a man named Edgar Cayce," he said, while the old colored man stowed the bags away. "Can you take me to him?" He spoke quickly, with a thick, Germanic. Uncle Billy straightened himself and shivered a little. "Mr. Edgar's gone home for the day," he said. "And it's a mile and a half out there to the hill. Miss Gertrude's mighty sick these days, and Mr. Edgar's there with her most time. There is a river." The stranger settled himself in the cab and Uncle Billy tucked a blanket around his legs. "They don't have many visitors, on account of Miss Gertrude," he went on. "Lord, I hope nothing happens to that child'll she is his daughter?" the stranger asked. Uncle Billy finished with the blanket. "No, sir. Miss Gertrude is Mr. Edgar's wife," he explained. "Now, I can take you to the hotel and first thing tomorrow morning. We will go now to die house," the stranger said. "And tell me, why is it so cold down here in the South?" "Lord God, sir," Uncle Billy said. "This ain't the South. The South's way down yonder. This here's Kentucky, and the Lord ain't got a bit o' use for it." He paused before closing the door. "You think you'll be warm enough riding way out there and back again?" he asked. "I will be comfortable," the stranger said. "Let us go quickly." Uncle Billy closed the door and climbed to his box, muttering. The 2 horses, eager for exercise, started briskly down East 9th Street, turned left along the park, and headed out East 7th Street. The town fell behind and the street became Russellville Road. Houses gave way to brown, rolling hills, and bare fields looted of their crops. A single bright spot loomed through the dusk. On a hill higher than the rest and covered with trees, a grey, rambling house stood with its face to the north. The 4 white columns of its porch glistening in the sidewise glance of the winter sun. Beyond it the road swerved to tire right. Just before the cab reached the carriage entrance leading to the house on Dye, there is a river hill. It stopped a little off the road, almost hidden by a giant oak and some maple trees, was a small cottage, brightly painted in green and white. Uncle Billy got down from his box and opened the cab door. "In here, sir," he said. The stranger got out, stretched, and looked around him. "He doesn't live in the big house," he said, as if disappointed. Uncle Billy pointed to the glistening columns. "Cliat's the hill," he said. "It's the old Salter place, where Miss Gertrude's folks live. This here," he pointed to the cottage, "is Miss Lizzie's little place. Miss Lizzie is Miss Gertrude's mother. She lives up at the hill with Miss Kate." The stranger smiled a little. "Do your southern ladies never marry?" he said. "Oh, they's all married," Uncle Billy said, "but they ain't got no husbands, except Miss Gertrude. They's dead." The stranger changed the subject. "What does this land produce?" he asked, waving his arm toward Hopkinsville. "Dark tobacco," Uncle Billy said. "Dark?" The stranger looked thoughtful. He stared at Uncle Billy. "Dark tobacco," Uncle Billy repeated. "Hopkinsville is famous for being the dark tobacco market of the whole world. It is also famous for another thing that is dark," the stranger said. Then he added, as if to himself, "Funny place to find it." He started for the cottage. Uncle Billy crawled into the cab to wait. The young man who opened the cottage door was slim and almost as tall as the stranger. Without saying anything, the stranger stepped into the hallway. "There is a river. You are Edgar Casey?" he asked. "I am," the young man answered. "I am Dr. Hugo Meinsterberg, of Harvard," the stranger said. "I have come here to expose you. There has been entirely too much written about you in the newspapers lately." He looked quickly around the hallway and peered into the living room, which opened from the hallway to the "What is your modus operandi?" he said. "Where is your cabinet?" The young man had not moved. He looked dazed. "I don't know what you mean," he said. Dr. Meinsterberg struck the air impatiently with an arm. The cabinet," he said brusquely. The young man recovered himself suddenly. He smiled and led the way into the living room. "Come in and sit down," he said. "I will take your coat. There is a fire in the fireplace. But I have no cabinet. I don't use any apparatus at all, if that's what you mean. I could lie down on the floor here and go to sleep, if I wanted to." Dr. Meinsterberg came into the room but did not sit down or remove his coat. From its inner pocket he took a sheaf of newspaper clippings. "There's been too much publicity for this thing not to be a fake," he said, putting the clippings on a tea table. Idly the young man leafed through the clippings. Apparently he had seen Cleum before. One was a full-page display from the Sunday magazine section of the New York Timers for October 9, 1910. The headline said, "Illiterate man B. Comes a doctor when hypnotized, strange power shown." By Edgar Cayce puzzles physicians. The first paragraph. Read. The medical fraternity of the country is taking a lively interest in the strange power said to be possessed by Edgar Cayce of There Is a River Hopkinsville, Chi, to diagnose difficult diseases while in a semi-conscious state. Though he has not the slightest knowledge of medicine when not in this condition. There was a photograph of the young man, another of his father, a mustached gentleman named Leslie B. Cayce, who was described as the conductor of the hypnotic sleeps, and a triad picture showing a young physician named Dr. Wesley H. Ketchum, who had reported the phenomena to the American Society of Clinical Research of Boston. There was a drawing which showed the young man lying on a table, asleep, while a weird demon of the other world hovered over him. All this was done without my knowledge or permission. The young man explained to Dr. Meinsterberg. I was in Alabama at the time. I didn't know anything about it. Dr. Meinsterberg stood with his back to the fireplace, warming himself. You say you do not have a cabinet, he said. Do you allow yourself to be seen? Are the lights on? Oh, it's always very light, the young man said. I give the readings in the morning and afternoon, 2 each day. If there isn't enough light, we have to turn on the lamps, so the stenographer can see to take down what I say. And the patient? Where is the patient? Most of them are at home, wherever that is. They just read me the address, and I seem to find the place all right. You do not examine the patients beforehand? Oh, no. I don't know anything about medicine when I'm awake. I prefer not to know even the name of the person before I go to sleep. The names wouldn't mean much to me, anyhow. Most of the people are from out of the state. Somewhere. They tell their symptoms in letters to this Dr. Ketchum. There is a river. Oh, no. We only want to be sure that they really need help. That's all. Dr. Meinsterberg watched the young man's face while he talked. It was a frank, open countenance. The cheeks were round, the nose straight, the chin receding but not weak, the eyes grey-blue and friendly. His hair was straight and brown. He spoke with a soft drawl. He looked about 25. You are how old? The doctor asked. 34. I'll be 35 in March. You look younger. What is your name? You are Irish? No, it was originally quasi-nonon frcnch, I reckon. Our records don't go back to Tyre country from which we came originally. Our direct ancestor is Shadrach Kiki CCC. Lai lived in Powhatan County, Virginia, and his sons Fugleif in the Revolution. They received land grants in Tennessee and Kentucky from the government, and that's why we're here. He went to a square-topped walnut table in the corner of the room. His stride was quick and sure, his step soft, like a man used to hunting and life in the open. This table came from Virginia more than 100 years ago, he said. You were born on a farm? Dr. Meinsterberg asked. The young man came back to the tea table and sat down. Tess, sir. I was born here in Christian County. Cly Cases used to own nearly all the land between Hopkinsville and the Tennessee line. That's about 15 miles. But my great-grandfather had 4 sons and my grandfather had 7 sons. So by the time all the land was split up there wasn't a great deal left for my generation. So I'm a photographer, but you do not work at that now, of course. Oh, yes. That's in the contract I have with my partners. They have to furnish me with a studio and equipment. There is a river, that's where I malsy my living. I can only give 2 readings a day, you see, and some of them are for people who have no money. Dr. Meinsterberg laughed a little and shook his head. Either you are a very simple fellow, he said, or you are very clever. I cannot penetrate your ruse. The young man shook his head mournfully. I'm the dumbest man in Christian County, he said, when I'm awake. But when you are asleep you know everything. Is that it? That's what they tell me. I don't know. The people say I tell them how they feel better than they know how to tell it themselves. They take the medicines and the treatment I prescribe, and Cly get better. The stenographer takes it down and gives the patient a copy. Dr. Ketchum adds what ever comment is needed. That's all I know. You have no explanation for this. There is no tradition of psychic power in your family. They say my grandfather was a water witch. He would walk around with a forked hazel twig in his hand and tell the farmers where to dig their wells. They always found water there, so they said. He was supposed to be able to do other things, too, such as make a broom dance, but that was probably just talk. There's nothing funny about my father except that snakes love him, and he hates Th6m. Snakes are fond of your father. They used to follow him home from the fields. They would wrap themselves around his hat brim if he laid his hat down in the field. It got on his nerves so much that he gave up farming. The family has lived in town for about 10 years now. There is a river and you have been doing this business how long? The readings? Oh, just regularly since all the publicity started a year ago. I didn't pay much attention to it until then. I just did it for friends, and people round about who asked me now and then, what have been your studies? Not medicine, you say? No. I never got further than what would be first year in high school. I was graduated down in the country, where they have 9 grades. But since then you have read a lot, naturally. Well, I like to read, and I used to work in a bookstore, but I reckon my taste isn't very high. You can look through the bookcase there in the hall if you like. Dr. Meinsterberg went immediately into the hallway. We will see what you read. It should be interesting, he said. He began taking books from the cases, stacking them on the floor. Some he flipped open, running through the page. Quickly, these he dropped Carell sly, so that some of them fell face open on the floor. There seems to be nothing worthwhile here, Ho said. The Harvester, The Common Law, The Rosary, Girl of the Limhalost, The Trail of the Lonesome Pine. Lot Iaru. See what are these large volumes? Judd Carrot magazine and Red Book magazine. I have them bound each year, the young man explained. We like to keep them. The Circular Staircase, The Awakening of Helena Richie. Who is this E.P. Rowe? Ah, you have a complete set of his works. Those are Ray wife's. I gave them to her years ago. E.P. Rowe is her favorite novelist. Meme. Yes, I see now. Love stories. What trash. There is a river here is the doctor. No, it is a novel. The Jungle, Coniston, The Clansman, Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm, The Cardi. Nav's Snuffbox. Some poetry here. It is. Ella Wheeler Wilcox. He straightened himself and turned back to the living room. Well, there is nothing here, he said. I shall have to look further. Perhaps you would like to see a reading, the young man said. The copies are kept at the office, downtown, but I have my wife's readings here. We had a check reading for her the other day. The doctors all said she would die. She has tuberculosis. But she is getting better by following the readings. He was eager now, his face shone. He went into a room across the hall, returning almost immediately with 2 sheets of typewritten manuscript. Each sheet carried his picture at the top, with the legend, Edgar Casey, Jr., Psychic Diagnostician. The printer made a mistake, he said, handing the sheets to the doctor and pointing to the legend. He got me mixed up with my Uncle Edgar and put me down as Junior. I'm not. Dr. Meinsterberg began to read the sheets. The young man stepped away politely and sat down by the tea table. I cannot learn much from this. I am not a medical doctor, Dr. Meinsterberg said. He looked quickly at the young man to see how this was taken. The young man offered another suggestion. There are some people you might go to see, who have had experience with the readings. They could tell you whether they work or not. You could see Mrs. Dietrich, and there is a river some of the others. Mrs. Dabney, Miss Perry, Mrs. Bowles, maybe. Good, the doctor said. You will write down their names and addresses. He continued to read.